now. Okay, so let's switch cameras. Where did that start? Okay, so yesterday we cut out all 10 shapes. Maybe you made more. I'm going to set these aside. Oops. And you have two options. You can create what's called a slump mold or a drape mold. A slump mold would be to just take a bowl, put saran wrap in it, or put the bowl inside of a plastic bag. That is my slump mold because you slump your clay in it. And we did this when we did coil bowls earlier this year. Or a drape mold is when you drape the clay over some newspaper. This is just a ball of newspaper with some tape. Doesn't matter to me which one you do. I'm going to use the drape mold just to show you because it's different than what we've already done. And what I want to do is, this is still pretty thick. So let's say I want to drape this on top of my mold and I want to overlap. So I'm building a form. I don't know if I want it that way, this way, whatever way I do it, I'm going to go like that. Now the area that it crisscrosses, let me grab, you can grab a skewer. I'm going to draw a line here just so I can see where it crisscrosses, and I'll flip it to crisscross there. So now I know here and here is where I need to score and slip. The whole point of this project is to really practice scoring and slipping as beautifully and well as we can, because I know that is one of the things that most students are weak about, is doing good scoring. Now scoring, as a review, is like making Velcro. I'm creating this really deep texture on my clay that's still pretty nice and wet. And if you have slip, which is muddy clay, then use slip. If you don't, then you can just go ahead and use water because our clay is still nice and wet from yesterday. I'm going to add some slip or water onto my Velcro and then rematch. Now, the thing I want to do is I really want to pinch and squeeze. I'm going to make this a little bit thinner because my piece is so thick. And then I'm going to take my paintbrush and clean up that area. For now, I'll clean up the underside, but once you start building, you're not going to do that. And then I'm going to gently press on my mold so that it starts to take that form. So I'm going to do this again. Let me find another area. Let's get them in here. And maybe my next area, let me rotate this a little bit. Maybe I want this to crisscross like this. So you're going to move this around. And again, take your skewer or some kind of tool to draw around. And I know just by lifting this, I'm just going to mark this and say, okay, that's where I'm going to score and slip. Whoops. And repeat. So scoring and slipping. So today's Wednesday. By Friday, you will submit as a homework grade your finished form. And I say homework, there will be no rubric. This is not being graded. So if it's messy or if you make mistakes, that is okay. This is our practice piece before we go to a real project. So again, I'm going to pinch that. Don't forget to take your paintbrush and clean up that slip that oozed out and add some pressure. So I'm going to form really quickly. For those of you that weren't here in the fall when we did this, if you don't want to drape, because this can be annoying, and actually as you're draping, if you put it inside of a bowl, that'll prevent this from rolling around. But let's say you want to slump instead. So I just put my J in there. Not the bowl. That's a great question. Colin just asked a great question. Can I drape on the other side of the bowl? Technically you can, but the problem is with the bowl, it's hard. So if this starts to dry out, the clay will shrink and contract and your piece will crack. So you always want to use something soft if you're draping, because this newspaper has some give to it. And that's why I like to slump if I'm doing something hard. And the beauty of this is I can add some pressure in here. This is still wet enough clay. Well, you still want to score and slip because again, that's the whole point of this project. So I'm going to score and slip these areas, but I would trace the area out so that you make sure you know where you're going. Let me pause this for a second, actually. Okay, so obviously I'm just going to keep scoring and slipping And to me, it doesn't matter. Just as you're doing this, make sure you press after you score and slip. Let's say I'm done for today. I want to still keep all of these wrapped in a damp paper towel if I haven't used them all. And I would do the same thing inside here. And when you take a damp paper towel, I'm going to take my paper towel, squeeze out all of that water. So I know this is really nice and wet. Place that over my piece. Now the beauty with the slumping is I can just take this plastic bag and leave it all inside the bowl and do that until tomorrow. If you're doing the drape, do the same thing. Cover this with a damp paper towel and put this inside of a plastic bag. So go to town, figure out which mold you're going to use. I mean,